Hello, I'm Charles Goves, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Goves Show, whether you're watching on Rumble or on YouTube or listening via one of the many podcast platforms. This is a place where you'll be inspired to live your life with passion, guided by your self-awareness about who you want to be, about who you really are, and how you want your life to unfold in front of you as you move forward, creating a magnificent experience here on planet Earth. Passion is a source of unlimited energy from your soul, your spirit, your heart that enables you to produce extraordinary results. Extraordinary results. Why extraordinary? Because most people are not passionate. I've spent 32 years teaching people about passion. Trust me, most people are not passionate about what they do. It's such a waste of your humanity if you are not passionate. Greatness can only be achieved through passion. So let's get into this week's big topic, which is a big topic. Very relevant to the future that you live if you are living in a country that has a Christian foundation for its constitution, like Australia, like Canada, like America, like the United Kingdom, like Ireland. Today's topic is a response to major demonstrations happening in Australia, in Melbourne and Sydney, that include shutting down the Harbour Bridge, shutting down major thoroughfares in Melbourne, and these demonstrations and protests have been going on for over a year on a weekly basis. Parts of Melbourne and Sydney keep being shut down by these protests and demonstrations, all allegedly in the name of supporting the Palestinians and against Israel. The loudness of these protests and demonstrations, allegedly to save the Palestinians in Gaza, are fraudulent in the extreme, have led to huge levels of anti-Semitism in Australia and many other countries, and totally ignore many of the facts that are clearly apparent to anybody who takes an interest, but not apparent to those who think that saving a starving child is worth shutting down the streets of your city. I reject that proposition. These protests and demonstrations are not opposed by the police or the politicians. These protesters are claiming to have free speech and I'm talking about Australia here, but this is the same pattern that is run throughout the West, through non-Islamic countries. And the politicians cower, the police cower. The police, as you know, in many countries in Europe, there are huge areas of cities where the police simply won't go, that have been taken over by Muslim invasions. And indeed, I say that Western Europe is lost to Islam. It's a deliberate strategy, and there are people scared to even say the word Islam and Muslims, that they're taking over parts of the country. Well, it's also happening in Australia. And I say it's time to defend Australia, because Australia and many countries are founded on the principles of Western civilization. The Western civilization is founded on Christian principles. And the crucial element of Christianity is that each one of us matters. Muslims, Jews, Christians, non-Christians, non-believers. Every single one of us matters. But that's a Christian principle. It is not free speech to stop me being able to drive through the streets because there are people who are illegally, unlawfully standing on the streets, and the police do nothing about it. Now, why don't the police do anything about it? Because it suits the political purpose. Now, I also say that these well-organised protests and demonstrations, think about this. Who's funding these demonstrations? Who's paying the organisers? Because I know how difficult it is to organise one gathering. This is a massive, sophisticated, professional protest movement. It is designed to weaken the will of Australians to stand up for what they believe in. For any country for the citizens of any country to not stand up for what they believe in, which is the foundation of their country. I'm delighted that Donald Trump sees fit to fight for Christianity. I call on people who are Christians to stand up for Christian principles. And I urge all of you to understand what we are dealing with here. We are dealing with political Islam. And I hope you understand what that means. I'm making no comment about any individual Muslim. I love Muslims. There are numerous Muslims that I love, that I know personally. I absolutely oppose in political Islam. And you must understand that one of the key tenets of political Islam is to Islamicize the whole world. Now, Islam is not a religion. It is partly a religion. It is partly a political movement. And political Islam, its stated public purpose is to Islamicize all countries. Do you want to live? Do you want the country that you are in that's not Muslim? By the way, I totally respect the right of any current Muslim country to stay Muslim. Good luck. I look forward to doing lots of business with Islamic countries. I love doing business with Islamic countries. I don't want Australia to be Islamic. Do you? If you don't fight for what you want, you will not get what you want, and you will lose what you have, as we have seen over the last 5.5 years. The attacks on our inalienable rights, the attacks on our personal rights. You will lose, slice by slice. Salami tactics of communist regimes. Take away your freedoms, slice by slice. Now, I think it suits our politicians in this country and many countries to allow this foment to occur, all of this disruption, because then what do the politicians say? They say, give us more power so we can control these people. No, we don't. You don't need more power. You have to stand up for the current laws. You have to stand up for the current constitution of your country. It is time to defend the constitution of your country. I call on Australians particularly to wake up and defend our constitution. I don't want Australia to become Islamic. Now, on top of that, I don't want, and as a lawyer I'm telling you this, it is a disaster for a nation to have 2 or 3 legal systems. And already Islamic groups are pushing for Sharia to be applied in Australia. There are Sharia courts in the UK, total disgrace. There's the fight for indigenous courts. So in Australia, you can have the current law, you can have then Sharia, and then you can have Aboriginal law. It is a disaster. It is a disaster to have different rules for different people who are nationals of one country. If you don't understand that, you have been not paying attention. You have taken no interest in the matter because you are saying, I'm comfortable. I don't want to take the risk. Well, I'm sorry. It's time to understand the massive risk as shown by these 2 massive demonstrations in Australia and the demonstrations around the world. We cannot have Muslims who come to this country to work to then Islamicize our political system. I call on government to stop allowing Muslims to fight to convert Australia to Islam. I call on Australia to follow the example of Switzerland, where mosques cannot be constructed. Muslims can meet in normal buildings. They cannot construct mosques. I say ban all mosques, and I've heard some very concerning stories in Victoria. And if you know of other stories, any stories that you've heard of mega mosques being built in Victoria with huge resources funded from the Middle East, I call on the cessation of the construction of all mosques in Australia. Muslims can meet in their own buildings, any building, commercial building. No more mosques. I call on Australians and nationals in every country to not cower
against the physical, violent threats of Islam and defend it in the name of Islamophobia. I reject any assertion that I have any Islamophobia in me. I don't want political Islam in this country. I can give you 20 reasons why I don't want it. I don't have the time to articulate that for you now. I love our Australian Constitution. I love the Christian basis on which this country was founded, this successful country. So you then have to look at and understand, gosh, is that the game of political Islam? Yes, it is. It is part of their tenet that in any country in which they go to fight for Islam, is to converting that country to Islam. It must be stopped. It must be defended. It's time to stop carrying on with this nonsense because you're scared of being called an Islamophobe. Don't be scared. Let them call you whatever name they want. And then if someone says to me I'm being racist, I say bullshit. Which race particularly am I being racist against? We are in serious times. And if we don't push back now in Australia and in the countries where you can, by the way, no, can't be done in Western Europe unless there's a massive pushback by people. As I say it again, Western Europe is lost to Islam. Central Europe, fine. Hungary, Poland, Croatia have taken sensible decisions to not allow their countries to be taken over by Islam. And indeed, when I look back at the Hungarian heritage that I have, Hungary for centuries has pushed back against the creeping takeover of Islam. Many Hungarians have fought in wars to defend Christian values against Islamic action, against political Islam. I call on all citizens who don't want their countries to become Islamic to stand up now. I call on you to be willing to pay the price, to stand up for the principles that you believe in, that the principles by which you want your country run. And I promise you, when you look at Western Europe, it will never be easier than today. Every day it will get harder. Today is the day, the 3rd of August, when I'm recording this. It is time to defend national constitutions that are founded on Christian principles, and do not elect as politicians any politician who does not commit to defending the national constitution. Think about that. Why do Muslims who come to Australia want to impose Islamic rule in this country, or indeed any place where they migrate to? Because they don't like the system under which they live. Otherwise they wouldn't migrate, would they? Think about what you want for your descendants. This is a serious challenge to current constitutions. And in the mood that I'm in right now, which is appalled at the behaviour of politicians in this country, in Australia, appalled at the total abdication by police of their obligations, I'm not in a mood for much humour, even though I do say that life is a game. And you might get that I'm somewhat passionate about this, and indeed I am. At least I know what I'm passionate about. I urge you to become really clear about what you're passionate about. So I hope today has provoked you with new ways of thinking about what's going on. To have further details about my background, check the show notes, check our website, charlescoves.com. That's the best website to go to. My books are available there, courses. I do one-on-one coaching, public programs, speak at any of your conferences. In fact, I'm speaking at Daylesford on Friday, the 22nd of August, talking to a Republican lunch about being passionate for whatever cause you're passionate about. And the Republicans who want a republic for Australia, they're passionate about a republic for Australia. So check that out if you are in Victoria, of coming to a lunch and listening to me talk about the power of passion in fighting for whatever cause you want. and of course I'm passionate about Australia's Constitution. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Have a great week. Please think about these issues, how they're relevant to your life. I hope this helps you raise your self-awareness about what your life is and what you want it to be. Have a great week. See you next week. Bye.